Welcome to Wednesday Newsday, your #1 resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. Probably one of the biggest VR games of the past few years just got released. This will be an interesting news day as I also give some of my personal impressions on Zenith, a lost city. This Sword Art Online inspired VR headset is facing some big problems, unfortunately. Quest 2 gets another pretty massive update, and I'm just glad to be back after a week off. I'm sorry for the little break, but let's just get right into the news. First off, some kind of sad news. The past few months, I've been pretty intrigued by a new VR project openly claimed to be inspired directly by Sword Art Online, the Half-Dive VR headset. This headset was supposed to be something pretty different than what we're used to. Instead of a typical VR headset where you stand up and move your body around, the Half-Dive was built to be a VR system that operates while laying down. Hence the Half-Dive name, going off of the full dive system within Sword Art Online. The project featuring a few different types of haptics, air feedback via a fan, and a system of lenses that would normally be far too heavy for a headset that rests on your head, even featuring a system of tethered force feedback pulleys for your arms. And DiverX took to Kickstarter just last month to raise capital needed to release this headset, but unfortunately, the Half-Dive has been canceled. I think to some people the writing was on the wall, as the Half-Dive was a really niche device, but to others like myself, I was at the very least interested. DiverX says that the real reasons for canceling the Half-Dive range from inability to reduce costs of manufacturing, scalability, and cash flow issues, and their product being inherently a niche device that doesn't bring enough innovation to the current scene. But this isn't the end of DiverX, and I'll still be keeping an eye on them, as they say they're still dedicated to developing full dive tech for in-bed immersion in the future. And speaking of Sword Art Online, probably one of the biggest VR games to release over the past few years, pretty obviously taking direct inspiration from SAO, Zenith, a lost city by developers Ramen VR, just released this week. And in case you didn't know or somehow haven't heard about it, Zenith is a VR MMORPG. Not the first of its kind, but pretty much the first that's taken off. And it's really taken off. To give you an idea, Zenith not only hit the top selling charts for the Oculus store, but also Steam. And no, not the Steam VR store, but the entirety of Steam. I don't think I've seen a VR game hit the Steam top selling chart at #1 since maybe Half-Life Alyx 2 years ago. Needless to say, I think the game is something that many people have been looking forward to, and there's obviously very high demand. And honestly, Ramen VR did something really right here, releasing on PSVR, PC VR on Steam, and Quest standalone, and having the game be completely cross-play. It doesn't matter what device you're on. And does it really live up to all of this hype? Here's some very quick first impressions. Coming from an alpha player with probably about 5 hours of playtime in the full release, Zenith is not perfect. Compared to most flat screen MMOs I'm used to, I'd be hard pressed to say it's even that great of an MMO at all, but it's not a flat screen MMO. And comparing it to a flat screen MMO is doing Zenith a disservice. It's a VR game and it's fun, it's immersive, it's not the prettiest game around, and it doesn't have the best mechanics I've ever seen, but so far in my playtime, getting with a party of people to complete a dungeon, or shifting the typical MMO hotkey mash to using your body instead, and just completing the quests within the world has been a lot of fun, and that's kind of all I really ask out of a $30 MMORPG in VR, at least right now. And there's already way more content on the way according to Ramen VR. Right now, Zenith only has 2 classes with 3 roles each, not really a whole lot to choose from, but they said, quote, they absolutely have plans to add additional classes over time, beyond 3, end quote. Along with plans for more cosmetic customization, a few more instance dungeons, and interestingly, they mention eventually integrating user-generated content into the mix into the future. So, the launch. Server issues and all, which actually for an MMO of this size is kind of a good sign. It means people are actually playing, which is important for an MMO, massively multiplayer. I gotta say, everything seems to be going really well for Zenith. Like I said, I did play a lot of the alpha, and I do have a pretty long history with MMOs, so if you're interested in hearing a full review from me, definitely like this video and leave a comment down below so I can see if it's something people are even interested in. And also a little surprise, within my Discord server and my Twitch stream today, I'm going to be giving away a bunch of free Zenith keys, both provided by me and Ramen VR themselves. So join up in my Discord server for more information on that. But now on to this quest update. We heard about V37 for the quest in Quest 2 kind of a while ago, and I haven't talked about a quest update in a long time, but this one is kind of a big one, affecting everything from basic user interfaces to the ways developers can build apps for the quest. Starting off, Meta has released the Interaction SDK for both controllers and hand tracking, allowing for a ton of standardized gestures and motions to be used within any VR application. And this solves a pretty big problem that I personally have with hand tracking and kind of a lot of VR games as well. Every application feels a little different with how you interact with everything, mainly menu items. And to give an idea of the disparity or the problem, with a computer mouse, almost everything acts like a mouse, and on a smartphone, your finger gestures usually are universal regardless of what app you're using. It makes app and usage of devices very intuitive. If you've used one, you know how to operate almost all of them. Yet with most hand tracking applications, they all kind of do something different and can feel vastly different sometimes. This SDK that just released supports and standardizes a ton of gestures like grab and a bunch of different grab poses, pinch and pinch scrolling, gesture detection, and virtual touchscreen elements, and it's all free to integrate. Overall, this just makes good virtual interactions easier to implement across the board. It makes the whole experience a lot more fluid. Along with that was introduced a new hand tracking quick menu using the pinch gesture, allowing you to record, resize windows, or recenter really quickly. And this is just a small quality of life update, but I find myself using hand tracking within the Quest 2 more and more, so this is definitely welcomed. But there's one more update that's a little more interesting. A while ago, we got a tracked keyboard update, allowing for the Logitech K830 to be used with the Quest 2, and more importantly, to be tracked by the Quest 2. But this most recent update breaks the solo support for the K830, and it now supports the Apple Magic Keyboard. The keyboard actively tracked within VR with gesture support and everything, but also automatically showing pass-through of your hands while typing. And gotta be honest, with keyboard support like this, better hand tracking utility across the board, hand tracking gestures with Interactions SDK, and the new UI systems introduced in V37, the Quest 2 is kinda starting to really look like a mobile PC alternative, at least for basic productivity, browsing, and light workloads, that is. And I'm mostly excited to see where all of this leads. One of the big goals of Meta for VR in general is for it to become, quote, the next computing platform. And these little but kind of big updates are definitely making some really convincing strides towards the idea of wearing a computer on your face rather than looking at a monitor. And actually, now that I think of it, I can't tell whether staring at a monitor or in a headset sounds more dystopian, but I guess this is cool either way. Oh well, and now it's time for a meme break! So it's official. The transition has completed as the Oculus Quest Twitter account has changed its name to MetaQuest VR. Honestly, I don't know where the meme is here. This isn't even a meme break. This is just a sad break. I don't know. F's in chat and rest in peace, Oculus. And now back to the news. I think we all know Beat Saber. It's the poster child of virtual reality, known as the best-selling VR game yet, and kind of a must-have for any owner of a VR headset. And while Beat Saber has gotten lots and lots of music packs, and of course custom tracks have been a thing for a long time, the core gameplay mechanics of Beat Saber have practically been unchanged since launch, with the exception of 180 and 360 degree maps. But this may change very soon. A teaser trailer recently showed a new set of block types coming to Beat Saber in the form of these thin trailing blocks, and a new energy line leading to certain blocks. Really, the game hasn't changed much since its inception, so a few finely tuned additions seems more than welcome to me. And if anything, will give mappers more tools to work with and make the game a little more dynamic. But I am interested to see what the more hardcore Beat Saber community has to think about this. As a casual player, I can say I'm excited, but I don't know about the hardcore community. So now let's talk about some really exciting new mixed reality and augmented reality hardware before we talk about some possible PSVR 2 HIDEO KOJIMA game rumors. So the Magic Leap was a pretty sweet piece of augmented reality hardware, and it launched around 4 4 years ago, which is weird to think about that it's been that long, but it has. And at the time, it was poised to be a really good piece of AR hardware with an NVIDIA Tegra chip, tons of monetary backing. Honestly, it looked amazing at the time, and it still kind of holds up now. However, the $2,300 price tag and lack of developer support kind of made the hardware more or less really stagnant, and it never really took off. In other words, Magic Leap bombed. It was both too expensive and stuck between being ahead of its time and also not good enough for its time. The company ended up changing leadership, laying off a ton of employees, but Magic Leap is not done. Last year, they surprisingly announced the Magic Leap 2, and I think this device may just be worth a look, and once you hear some of the specs, I think you'll agree. Now lighter, twice as powerful with an AMD partnership, an iBox twice as large, way more cameras, and it claims to have the largest field of view of any transparent AR headset on the market. And this is pretty good timing, really. The demand for transparent optic AR devices is steadily climbing, although slowly, while the current market leader Microsoft with the HoloLens 2 reportedly is moving away from the transparent lens system altogether and onto a mixed reality pass-through AR, which has its own merits for sure, but it's not transparent, of course. No price has been given on the Magic Leap 2, but if it can deliver on price and functions like they promise and maybe be open to consumers and enterprise, although I find that unlikely, Magic Leap 2 may just paint a very different story than its first iteration. Beloved game designer HIDEO Kojima is rumored to be working on a PSVR 2 game. From Oops Leaks, quote, Kojima Productions got PSVR 2 prototypes back in November 2021. According to unconfirmed information that I've got, studio's upcoming smaller project could be a VR game/experience in collaboration with award-winning virtual reality expert and storyteller Celine Tricart, end quote. And that's really it from that. I do gotta say though, a Kojima VR game sounds incredibly interesting if it is true, and I definitely wanted to mention it, at least to keep it on people's radar. But now for question of the week from Bombastic Bagman. How do you go about choosing the question of the week? Do you have a spreadsheet or random number generator, or do you just find one you like while scrolling? And great question. I actually usually end up reading at some point almost every single comment on every video. Sometimes I can't read them all and I miss some, but I really do try, and I read almost all of them even if I can't comment back. So I usually just find a question of the week that I like and that I think others will be interested in as well, or that I just find funny. Really not that much to it actually, but that was question of the week, so leave your own down below and I may just answer yours next. Your questions don't go unread at the very least. Like I said, Zenith giveaway in my Discord server and on the Twitch stream today, so what are you waiting for? Come on in and say what's up. I wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas. I couldn't do any of this without you, and we also have a Patreon meetup this week as well, so join in there if you'd like as well. But don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Grill out.